Management in businesses and organizations is the function that coordinates the efforts of people to accomplish goals and objectives by using available resources efficiently and effectively. Management includes planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing, and controlling an organization to accomplish the goal or target. Resourcing encompasses the deployment and manipulation of human resources, financial resources, technological resources, and natural resources. Management is also an academic discipline, a social science whose objective is to study social organization. Etymology. The English verb manage comes from the Italian maneggiare, which derives from the two Latin words manus and agere. The French word for housekeeping, menagerie, derived from menager, also encompasses taking care of domestic animals. The French word mesnagement influenced the semantic development of the English word management in the 17th and 18th centuries. Note that menagerie is the French translation of Xenophon's famous book O Economicus on household matters and husbandry, while the Italian word maneggiare refers to subaltern responsibilities. The modern Italian language would characterize the work of an executive as gestire. Definitions. Views on the definition and scope of management include, according to Henry Fayol, to manage is to forecast and to plan, to organize, to command, to coordinate and to control. Fredmund Malik defines it as the transformation of resources into utility. Management included as one of the factors of production, along with machines, materials and money. Ghislaine Delande defines it as a vulnerable force, under pressure to achieve results and endowed with the triple power of constraint, imitation and imagination, operating on subjective, interpersonal, institutional and environmental levels. Peter Drucker saw the basic task of a management as twofold: marketing and innovation. Nevertheless, innovation is also linked to marketing. Peter Drucker identifies marketing as a key essence for business success, but management and marketing are generally understood as two different branches of business administration knowledge. Andreas Kaplan specifically defines European management as a cross-cultural, societal management approach based on interdisciplinary principles. Theoretical scope management involves identifying the mission, objective, procedures, rules and manipulation of the human capital of an enterprise to contribute to the success of the enterprise. This implies effective communication. An enterprise environment implies human motivation and implies some sort of successful progress or system outcome. As such, management is not the manipulation of a mechanism, not the herding of animals, and can occur either in a legal or in an illegal enterprise or environment. Management does not need to be seen from enterprise point of view alone, because management is an essential function to improve one's life and relationships. Management is therefore everywhere and it has a wider range of application. Based on this, management must have humans, communication, and a positive enterprise endeavor. Plans, measurements, motivational psychological tools, goals, and economic measures may or may not be necessary components for there to be management. At first, one views management functionally, such as measuring quantity, adjusting plans, meeting goals. This applies even in situations where planning does not take place. From this perspective, Henry Fayol considers management to consist of 6 functions: forecasting, planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, controlling. In another way of thinking, Mary Parker Follett allegedly defined management as the art of getting things done through people. She described management as philosophy. Critics, however, find this definition useful but far too narrow. The phrase, "management is what managers do," occurs widely, suggesting the difficulty of defining management without circularity. The shifting nature of definitions and the connection of managerial practices with the existence of a managerial cadre or of a class. One habit of thought regards management as equivalent to business administration, and thus excludes management in places outside commerce, as for example in charities and in the public sector. More broadly, every organization must manage its work, people, processes, technology, etc., to maximize effectiveness. Nonetheless, many people refer to university departments that teach management as business schools. Some such institutions use that name, while others employ the broader term, management. English speakers may also use the term, management, or the management, as a collective word describing the managers of an organization, for example of a corporation. Historically, this use of the term often contrasted with the term, labor, referring to those being managed. But in the present era, the concept of management is identified in the wide areas and its frontiers have been pushed to a broader range. Apart from profitable organizations, even non-profitable organizations apply management concepts. The concept and its uses are not constrained. Management on the whole is the process of planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling nature of work. In profitable organizations, management's primary function is the satisfaction of a range of stakeholders. In non-profit management, add the importance of keeping the faith of donors. In most models of management and governance, shareholders vote for the board of directors, and the board then hires senior management. Some organizations have experimented with other methods of selecting or reviewing managers, but this is rare. In the public sector of countries constituted as representative democracies, voters elect politicians to public office. Such politicians hire many managers and administrators. And in some countries like the United States, political appointees lose their jobs on the election of a new president, governor, mayor. Historical development. Some see management as late modern conceptualization. On those terms it cannot have a pre-modern history, only harbingers. Others, however, detect management-like thought back to Sumerian traders and to the builders of the pyramids of ancient Egypt. Slave owners through the centuries faced the problems of exploiting, motivating a dependent but sometimes unenthusiastic or recalcitrant workforce. But many pre-industrial enterprises, given their small scale, did not feel compelled to face the issues of management systematically. However, innovations such as the spread of Hindu numerals and the codification of double-entry bookkeeping provided tools for management assessment, planning and control. With the changing workplaces of industrial revolutions in the 18th and 19th centuries, military theory and practice contributed approaches to managing the newly popular factories. Given the scale of most commercial operations and the lack of mechanized record-keeping and recording before the Industrial Revolution, it made sense for most owners of enterprises in those times to carry out management functions by and for themselves. But with growing size and complexity of organizations, the split between owners and day-to-day managers gradually became more common. Early writing. While management has existed for millennia, several writers have created a background of works that assisted in modern management theories. Some ancient military texts have been cited for lessons that civilian managers can gather. For example, Chinese General Sun Tzu in the 6th century BCE, The Art of War, recommends being aware of and acting on strengths and weaknesses of both a manager's organization and a foe's. Various ancient and medieval civilizations have produced mirrors for princes books, which aim to advise new monarchs on how to govern. Examples include the Indian Artha Shastra by Chanakya, and The Prince by Italian author Niccolò Machiavelli, written in 1776 by Adam Smith, a Scottish moral philosopher. The Wealth of Nations discussed efficient organization of work through division of labor. Smith described how changes in processes could boost productivity in the manufacture of pins. While individuals could produce 200 pins per day, Smith analyzed the steps involved in manufacture and, with 10 specialists, enabled production of 48,000 pins per day. 19th century classical economists such as Adam Smith and John Stuart Mill provided a theoretical background to resource allocation, production, and pricing issues. About the same time, innovators like Eli Whitney, James Watt, and Matthew Bolton developed elements of technical production such as standardization, quality control procedures, cost accounting, interchangeability of parts, and work planning. Many of these aspects of management existed in the pre-1861 slave-based sector of the U.S. economy. That environment saw 4 million people, as the contemporary usages had it, managed in profitable quasi-mass production. Salaried managers as an identifiable group first became prominent in the late 19th century. 20th century. By about 1900, one finds managers trying to place their theories on what they regarded as a thoroughly scientific basis. Examples include Henry R. Towne's Science of Management in the 1890s, Frederick Winslow Taylor's The Principles of Scientific Management, Lillian Gilbreth's Psychology of Management, Frank and Lillian Gilbreth's Applied Motion Study, and Henry L. Gantt's Charts. J. Duncan wrote the first college management textbook in 1911. In 1912, Yoichi Ueno introduced Taylorism to Japan and became the first management consultant of the Japanese management style. His son Ichiro Ueno pioneered Japanese quality assurance. The first comprehensive theories of management appeared around 1920. The Harvard Business School offered the first Master of Business Administration degree in 1921. People like Henry Fayol and Alexander Church described the various branches of management and their interrelationships. In the early 20th century, people like Ordway Teed, Walter Scott and J. Mooney applied the principles of psychology to management. Other writers, such as Elton Mayo, Mary Parker Follett, Chester Barnard, Max Weber, who saw what he called the administrator as bureaucrat, Renses Likert, and Chris Argyris approached the phenomenon of management from a sociological perspective. Peter Drucker wrote one of the earliest books on applied management, Concept of the Corporation. It resulted from Alfred Sloan commissioning a study of the organization. Drucker went on to write 39 books, many in the same vein. H. Dodge, Ronald Fisher, and Thornton C. Fry introduced statistical techniques into management studies. In the 1940s, Patrick Blackett worked in the development of the applied mathematics science of operations research, initially for military operations. Operations research, sometimes known as management science, attempts to take a scientific approach to solving decision problems, and can apply directly to multiple management problems, particularly in the areas of logistics and operations. Some of the more recent developments include the theory of constraints, management by objectives, re-engineering, Six Sigma and various information technology-driven theories such as agile software development, as well as group management theories such as Cog's ladder. As the general recognition of managers as a class solidified during the 20th century and gave perceived practitioners of the science of management a certain amount of prestige, so the way opened for popularized systems of management ideas to peddle their wares. In this context, many management fads may have had more to do with pop psychology than with scientific theories of management. Towards the end of the 20th century, business management came to consist of 6 separate branches, namely, financial management, human resource management, information technology management, marketing management, operations management or production management, strategic management. 21st century. In the 21st century, observers find it increasingly difficult to subdivide management into functional categories in this way. More and more processes simultaneously involve several categories. Instead, one tends to think in terms of the various processes, tasks, and objects subject to management. Branches of management theory also exist relating to non-profits and to government, such as public administration, public management, and educational management. Further, management programs related to civil society organizations have also spawned programs in non-profit management and social entrepreneurship. Note that many of the assumptions made by management have come under attack from business ethics viewpoints, critical management studies, and anti-corporate activism. As one consequence, workplace democracy has become both more common and advocated to a greater extent. In some places distributing all management functions among workers, each of whom takes on a portion of the work. However, these models predate any current political issue, and may occur more naturally than as a command hierarchy. All management embraces to some degree a democratic principle, in that in the long term, the majority of workers must support management. Otherwise, they leave to find other work or go on strike. Despite the move toward workplace democracy, command and control organization structures remain commonplace as de facto organization structure. Indeed, the entrenched nature of command and control is evident in the way that recent layoffs have been conducted, with management ranks affected far less than employees at the lower levels. In some cases, management has even rewarded itself with bonuses after laying off low-level workers. According to leadership academic Manfred F.R. Ketstavries, a contemporary senior management team will almost inevitably have some personality disorders. Topics. Basics. Management operates through 5 basic functions: planning, organizing, coordinating, commanding, and controlling. Planning, deciding what needs to happen in the future and generating plans for action. Organizing, making sure the human and non-human resources are put into place. Coordinating, creating a structure through which an organization's goals can be accomplished. Commanding, determining what must be done in a situation and getting people to do it. Controlling, checking progress against plans. Basic roles. Interpersonal roles that involve coordination and interaction with employees. Informational roles that involve handling, sharing, and analyzing information. Decision roles that require decision-making. Skills. Management skills include political, used to build a power base and to establish connections. Conceptual, used to analyze complex situations. Interpersonal, used to communicate, motivate, mentor and delegate. Diagnostic, ability to visualize appropriate responses to a situation. Leadership, ability to lead and to provide guidance to a specific group. Technical, expertise in one's particular functional area. Formation of the business policy. The mission of the business is the most obvious purpose, which may be, for example, to make soap. The vision of the business reflects its aspirations and specifies its intended direction or future destination. The objectives of the business refers to the ends or activity that is the goal of a certain task. The business's policy is a guide that stipulates rules, regulations, and objectives, and may be used in the manager's decision-making. It must be flexible and easily interpreted and understood by all employees. The business's strategy refers to the coordinated plan of action it takes and resources it uses to realize its vision and long-term objectives. It is a guideline to managers, stipulating how they ought to allocate and use the factors of production to the business's advantage. Initially, it could help the managers decide on what type of business they want to form. Implementation of policies and strategies. All policies and strategies must be discussed with all managerial personnel and staff. Managers must understand where and how they can implement their policies and strategies. A plan of action must be devised for each department. Policies and strategies must be reviewed regularly. Contingency plans must be devised in case the environment changes. Top-level managers should carry out regular progress assessments. The business requires team spirit and a good environment. The forecasting method develops a reliable picture of the business's future environment. A planning unit must be created to ensure that all plans are consistent and that policies and strategies are aimed at achieving the same mission and objectives. All policies must be discussed with all managerial personnel and staff that is required in the execution of any departmental policy. Organizational change is strategically achieved through the implementation of the 8-step plan of action established by John P. Cotter. Increase urgency, get the vision right, communicate the buy-in, empower action, create short-term wins, don't let up, and make change stick. Policies and strategies in the planning process. They give mid- and lower-level managers a good idea of the future plans for each department in an organization. A framework is created whereby plans and decisions are made. Mid- and lower-level management may add their own plans to the business's strategies. To command, to coordinate and to control. Fredmund Malik defines it as the transformation of resources into utility. Management included as one of the factors of production, along with machines, materials and money. Ghislaine Delalande defines it as a vulnerable force, under pressure to achieve results and endowed with the triple power of constraint, imitation and imagination, operating on subjective, interpersonal, institutional and environmental level in the 17th and 18th centuries. Note that menagerie is the French translation of Xenophon's famous book O Economicus on household matters and husbandry, while the Italian word managere refers to subaltern responsibilities. The modern Italian language would characterize the work of an executive as gestire. Definitions. Views on the definition and scope of management include, according to Henry Fayol, to manage is to forecast and to plan, to organize. Peter Drucker saw the basic task of a management as twofold: marketing and innovation. Nevertheless, innovation is also linked to marketing. Peter Drucker identifies marketing as a key essence for business success, but management and marketing are generally understood as two different branches of business administration knowledge. Andreas Kaplan specifically defines European management as a cross-cultural, societal management approach based on interdisciplinary management in businesses and organizations is the function that coordinates the efforts of people to accomplish goals and objectives by using available resources efficiently and effectively. Management includes planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing, and controlling an organization to accomplish the goal or target. Resourcing encompasses the deployment and manipulation of human resources, financial resources, technological resources, and natural resources. Management is also an academic discipline, a social science whose objective is to study social organization. Etymology. The English verb manage comes from the Italian manegere, which derives from the two Latin words manus and agere. The French word for housekeeping, menagerie, derived from menager, also encompasses taking care of domestic animals. The French word mesnagement influenced the semantic development of the English word management in